A much-needed relief to Korean chipmakers, U.S. eases export restriction. Hello and welcome to another episode of China Record. The chip tension between U.S. and China seems to be up and down. According to South Korean news agency, the presidential office announced last week that the United States has simplified the export process for Korean chipmakers, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. They will now be able to receive semiconductor manufacturing equipment from the U.S. for their factories in China without needing separate approval. This comes as a significant relief for the Korean companies. But how come the United States allow Korean chipmakers to import chip-making tools to its factories in China? Korean chipmaker in China. The U.S. government has given a thumbs up to Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix's chip factories in China, labeling them as verified end users or VU. This is a big win for them because it means they can get certain items shipped from U.S. exporters without all the usual red tape. The U.S. government didn't waste any time and let the two South Korean companies know about their decision right away. So it's all systems go for Samsung and SK Hynix. In October last year, the U.S. announced a set of rules that restrict exports of certain advanced semiconductor manufacturing equipment and items to companies in China in an apparent bid to slow Beijing's technological advances in the key sector. While there is a strong trade relationship between China and South Korea in the semiconductor industry, it is also influenced by external factors such as U.S. policies. China and South Korea have agreed to strengthen their cooperation on semiconductor supply chains. This agreement comes amid global tensions over chip technology and supplies. The Chinese Commerce Minister met with South Korea's Trade Minister and expressed Beijing's readiness to deepen bilateral trade and investment cooperation. However, the robust semiconductor trade flows between China and South Korea are under pressure as Washington strives to exclude Beijing from global tech supply networks. This could potentially impact Korea's chip titans. South Korea is a key player in semiconductor manufacturing, making cooperation from Seoul important for U.S. export control efforts against China. South Korean companies like Samsung Electronics and LG entered the chip-making business in the 1980s. Today, China plus Hong Kong account for more than 60% of South Korea's chip export market. South Korean chipmakers, such as Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, have significant operations in China. Samsung Electronics makes about 40% of its NAND flash chips at its plant in Xi'an, while SK Hynix makes about 40% of its DRAM chips in Wuxi and 20% of its NAND flash chips in Dalian. The companies together controlled nearly 70% of the global DRAM market and 50% of the NAND flash market as of June. Industry sources have indicated that China accounted for 41% of all South Korean chip exports in the first 7 months of 1 year, valued at $22.49 billion. Therefore, any disruption in this trade relationship could potentially have significant economic implications for South Korea. The restrictions' impacts on South Korean chipmaker in China. The global semiconductor industry has been caught in the crossfire of geopolitical tensions between the United States and China. The impact of these tensions has been felt acutely by South Korean chipmakers, who find themselves in a precarious position due to their significant trade relationships with both countries. In recent years, the United States has imposed sanctions on Chinese companies, citing national security concerns. One of the most notable instances was the sanction against Huawei, a leading Chinese tech company. These sanctions have had a ripple effect on South Korean chipmakers, who are heavily dependent on China for their exports. However, it's important to note that South Korean firms like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix have been allowed to supply U.S. chip equipment to their China factories indefinitely without separate U.S. approvals. This decision by the U.S. has greatly eased uncertainties about South Korean semiconductor firms' operations and investments in China. To be clear, Samsung and SK Hynix don't need to export EUV machines to their factories, since those high-end chip-making tools are banned by the U.S. However, the specific types of tools that can be imported for their fabs in China have been discussed with the U.S. Commerce Department. These tools are crucial for adopting new process technologies at their fabs in China so they can retain cost-effective production. However, the exact types of chip-making tools being exported have not been specified in the sources. The move by U.S. government has several reasons. As we know, during the tension between United States and China, there's semiconductor shortage and supply chain disruption. So, the move may help to alleviate the global chip shortage, which has disrupted industries worldwide. Maintaining and expanding production capacities, these indefinite waivers provide a crucial lifeline to Samsung and SK Hynix, enabling them to maintain and expand their production capacities, which is vital for the tech ecosystem stability. Settling trade issues. The decision settled a trade issue that threatened to impede the China operations of Samsung and SK Hynix. Supporting South Korean chipmakers, the Biden administration signaled support for South Korean chipmakers in the U.S. battle against China's tech rise. It's important to note that previously, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix obtained one-year waivers from the U.S. to continue importing advanced tools for their China plants. The waivers would have expired this month. The latest development quells concerns both firms have about their chip production in China, which partly relies on U.S. equipment. In the dynamic world of technology, the ability to adapt and expand is crucial for survival and growth. This is particularly true for global tech giants like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, two of South Korea's leading semiconductor manufacturers. These companies are at the forefront of the global semiconductor industry, providing critical components for a wide range of electronic devices. However, they are now facing a new challenge that requires strategic planning and execution: the need to shift their production to other countries. Even though the U.S. government granted Samsung and SK Hynix indefinite waivers allowing them to export American chip-making equipment to their factories in China, this move was aimed at alleviating the global chip shortage and supporting South Korean chipmakers in the U.S. battle against China's tech rise. However, relying solely on their factories in China could pose potential risks due to geopolitical tensions and trade issues. Therefore, diversifying their production bases across different countries becomes a strategic necessity for these companies. Expanding production to other countries offers several benefits. Firstly, it reduces dependency on a single country, thereby mitigating risks associated with geopolitical issues or trade disputes. Secondly, it allows these companies to tap into local talent pools and benefit from local government incentives. Lastly, it provides an opportunity to get closer to their customers and markets, thereby reducing logistics costs and improving customer service. Thank you for watching my video on China Record. I hope you found it informative and enjoyable. Your support means a lot to me and encourages me to bring more new episodes. If you liked the video, please don't forget to leave a comment and share it with others. Stay tuned for more exciting content.